Well, it's not much to see from here, but we got the vintage air unit in, the evaporators in, the vents in, the duct work, all the wiring. We got everything done underneath the hood. We got the compressor in, we got the hard lines in, the flex lines in, we got all of that done. It's been a marathon getting this vintage air system in. This is episode 2. Episode 1 was released about a month and a half ago. It's been a while, a journey. But here comes episode 2, so if you're interested in seeing how we get all this done, stay tuned. All right, welcome back. This is part 2 of a 2-part series on installing a vintage air conditioning unit in our 56 Bel Air. Part 1 included the installation of the condenser on the front of the radiator. It also included the dryer, fitting up the dryer and all the tubing that goes to it. So that's all in part 1. Also in part 1, I modified my controller. So I've got the controller set up with all the vintage air switches, that part of the wiring harness. And now in this part 2, we're going to go into the interior of the car and we're going to put in the evaporator, and we're going to do all the duct work, and we're going to hook up hopefully that controller. We're going to put that in, but also we got the last few connections between our compressor and the firewall where the evaporator lines come out. So we're going to do all of that in this episode. Let's get started. So this is the interior of Christine. Last few episodes before I started the vintage air was the installation of a wiring harness. So I've got 4 episodes, an unboxing, and then 3 episodes on the install of an American auto wire wiring harness. And that's why I've still got wires dangling here, because I need to get this evaporator in here with the blower and see what wires I need to recover and what wires need to go away. So these are the last few connections of all this. I also have an episode that I just released. That's the installation of these chrome vents. These are the Proline vents from Vintage Air. The little ball turret, the vent itself. Now, this is just the bezel, but the ball turret's going to go in when I put the duct work in today or this weekend. So that's where I'm at here. Let's go ahead and see what our next step is. So one of the things about this Vintage Air unit is it uses the old portal where the blower used to be. So there used to be a fan blower motor that was mounted here, and that came out. So they give you this new bulkhead plate that goes right there. And since I have Christine and I'm in the process of doing all this painting work, even though I'm going to have my battery box will be painted black, this is on the firewall and the rest of my firewall is all red. So even though it's kind of tucked away and hidden and there'll be hoses going through it, I think it'd be nice to have this painted red. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, is get this painted red and then put this on the side. So let's get that done. So I painted Christine, it turns out to be a year ago now. I painted her with, that is GM Pull Me Over Red in an Exalta Rival single stage. So I still have that left. What I'm going to do is I have the bulkhead now, this little portal where the tubing and the heater hoses go through. I'm going to spray this with that same color, and I'm going to use an Iwata airbrush to do it. But the first thing I'm going to do is spray this with some Bulldog adhesion promoter. This is an old can, but it's still good. That'll get this plastic to where it's nice and good and sticky. And then, this will be done. It'll be sitting on the side and waiting for us. So that's it. See how much paint I used. I mixed probably twice as much as what I needed. I mean, it's maybe 3/16 of an inch maybe within this cup that went down. So there you go. That's gonna I need to let that harden. It's gonna take much of the day, but I've got plenty of work in front of me. So let me go ahead and get rid of this little bit of paint, clean up the gun, and then we'll go to the next step. So the evaporator mounts to the firewall through 2 bolts. There's 2 brackets in the back, so I'm going to show them to you in a second. but they go through the firewall, and you got to find where these holes are. But I'm pretty sure these are both holes that are, they're existing holes, but I'm pretty sure they're holes that are currently being used to hold with the black plugs that hold the firewall pad in. So there's a third bracket on the front that goes to the front of the dash, and it centers this. So this is going to be centered on the speaker grill where the clock is. So this is the front of the evaporator unit. That's a defrost duct. There's a T that goes in both directions, and they tell you to remove that first. So you're going to have two ducts coming off of this, and then you got ducts that come off of this for the vents. Then on the back side, here are those two brackets. So you have to mount one of these brackets. Two bolts go to the body of the evaporator. There's a bolt that goes through the firewall. Same thing here. Two bolts go through the body of the evaporator. A bolt goes through the firewall. These are the two heater connections. One's an inlet and one's an outlet, of course. And I wish I'd have recorded it, but when this had two plastic caps on it, and when I took the plastic cap off, the first one it went psh, because it was either under pressure or under vacuum. I think it was under pressure. So if you take it apart and you hear that, then you know this is all watertight. So that's been hydrostatically tested. It's holding pressure. Similarly on the refrigeration side, so there's two lines here. That's where the two lines connect. One here, and the two heater lines, 1, 2 here. The bracket that goes on the front is here. So this screws to the front, and it sits right centered. The bottom flange of the dash right centered at the clock, that's where that is. So that'll index this in. They give you some hard piping. So here's the two pieces of hard piping that are for the heater lines. And one is going to mount here, and the other is going to mount here. And they're two different lengths. There's a longer one and a shorter one. And that'll stick out through that part that I painted this morning that goes where the fan motor was. So those two will stick out, two hard lines, and then you'll clamp your heater hoses to that. Then you've got the two refrigeration lines. It's going to give you two ends that stop there too. Let me find those in the box. Okay, here they are. So there's one hard line, and there's the other hard line. So these two are going to go onto those two fittings over here. And that'll get 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 all coming through the bulkhead right where the fan used to be. So now what I've got to do is I've got to get this fitted underneath there, underneath the dash. And I've removed my clock. I've removed a little bit of things. I've unplugged some things. I removed my speaker that was back here. So I have my stereo speaker. It's the only speaker that I have for the car. It goes right back there. And now what I've got to do is I have to fish the evaporator underneath here, but I think I'm gonna connect those 4 hard lines to it first. I think they won't be in the way. I can't see how you can get to some of those lines and tighten them once all that's in place. So I'm going to do that on a bench, and we're going to go to the next step. All right, so now I'm going to take the caps off of the refrigeration lines. And you can see what I'm talking about with the hiss. You got to back these up because it's real easy to twist these things and get them loose. Let's see if we can hear it. Nope. Oh, let's see if the plug is on it. Yeah, it's got vacuum. Get a pick. Oh, well, there it went. It was under pressure. Did you hear it? Happy New Year. So it is under positive pressure. I guess if it was under vacuum and it broke seal, it would draw things in. So they put it under positive pressure to push things out. But now I got the line open. Need to take that cap off, and that'll be these two for the water, for the heater, and these two for refrigeration. So each one of these gets an O-ring, and this one, There's a number 10 according to the box. Not that that means anything to me, and they give you some mineral oil to lube it up. And this is going to be the one that goes on the top. So I'm just going to tack it there just briefly, just a little bit, just to hold it in place, get it out of the way. Same thing on the lower one. O-ring, mineral oil. Make sure that that's, yep, seated down. Put this on. I don't know if that's going to rotate with these two lines. But we will see. I'm going to try, at least, because I don't want to reach back up in here and grab these things. All right, there's that one, and the 2 refrigeration lines. So this is going to be, this is the top one, so this goes here. I need to put the O-ring on it. And actually, I need to dig one out of a pack because apparently I lost one. So I need to open this pack, get an O-ring out, and then we'll continue. Well, I'm glad I'm doing this off the car because these are all fighting for the same real estate. This line and that line are supposed to be in the same position horizontally this way, and it looks like they kind of are. And this line is supposed to be over here with that line, but you can see it needs to come over here. So I mean, there's just no way for these two. These two are fighting for the same real estate. So what I need to do is I need to bend this line that's insulated. I need to bend it over. I think I got it. What I did was I took the tube and I basically twisted it this way, this one. So kind of got this like now going in that direction. And it looks like it passes by everything, and I got 1, 2, 3, 4. They're kind of in a box shape, so I'm going to get the little plastic little thing. Hopefully it's that paint's cured by now, and see if that bulkhead doesn't fit. It's pretty close. It's pretty close. So if this is level, that would be level. This is kind of pointing cockeyed a little bit. That one's cockeyed a little bit and low, so even the little one needs to be bent. You just got to tune and tweak them. All right, I've tuned and tweaked them as best I can, and I've got them as close as I'm going to get. I think that's right. Hopefully this is aligned this way and this way when I bring it to the car. So I got to bring that inside. They tell you where to mount the controller panel, and I've got to cut free 1 or 2 of these electrical tie wraps, and then bring that in, and hopefully I'll be able to get it swung in place underneath the dashboard. All right, it's mostly in. Wow, man, I don't wish that on my worst enemy. That was horrible. Those 4 lines, there's no way you can get to them once you put this in there. There's no way you can get to them, particularly because it's like one of them is 1 1/16". I mean, I don't know how you're going to get this wrench behind this thing and turn it, so you got to have those on first. But fighting it to get it in there was just such a difficult thing to do. And one of the tricks was to relieve the flange on the firewall. So this round circle, it folds in, and it goes in about 3/8 of an inch. So I had to grind the bottom quarter of it off. And when I did that, that gave me enough room to slip these lines just past that. And that was tough. It was these top 2, because I had to get those in first. But I got it. So now it looks like the bolt's going to be in here, and I popped out. Sure enough, it was one of the retainers over on this side. It might be behind the battery. I think it is. It's behind the battery, but I had to pop it out and got it. And I also got a gunch in my forehead in the process. Man. This will test your patience. But I think we're downhill from here. So let's keep going. One thing I forgot to mention, actually I forgot to do it. They give you some tar tape, and you gotta go over that one refrigeration line. It's insulated, and you got to get it over back to the box. So everything, that nut that I had to tighten was right there. So I had to do that. The other side where the expansion valve is already, I think it's the expansion valve or the thermostat. It's not. That's where it's already taped. All right, I'm working by myself, so it's hard to get this thing bolted up. But I'm close. I'm really, really close. What I found was the best thing to do is they tell you to put this clip on last, but this clip right here is what balances it. So I found that putting that clip on and just letting it ride once I got it in, then I was able to go on the other side of the firewall, and it gave me a little bit of leverage to be able to pry and pull and align and get this one bolt in. So now I have this bolt in, and I also have the bolt behind the battery. Got that one in, and that one wasn't too bad with the other 2 points. So they're both just kind of snug but not tight. What I need to do is I need to come back here, and now I need to take this bolt back out, put the bulkhead on. I'm going to put some sealer on it because if not, water will get back there and get behind it. So I need to put, I've got some bituminous tape or something I'm going to put back there or something, I'm not quite sure what. But then I'll be able to get that bulkhead on it, and that ought to take care of that. I think there's got to be another bolt down here. It doesn't go to a bracket, but there's got to be another bolt that holds that plate on. So we will see about that. Well, I got a problem. I bolted mine in through this hole and then put a bolt in that hole, and it's showing a bolt in a hole that's higher than that, which when I had my lines pass through, I didn't think it would reach this hole. But I'm concerned because if I leave it like it is, it's designed to have the low point drain right here. So condensation is supposed to come out and then drain out of this hole and go out of the firewall some sort of way. But that means that this needs to be, at a certain amount of levelness. And I can see, now that I'm looking at it, it's tilted. This is level, and that should be square, but it's not. It's leaning this way. All right, this is pretty difficult working by myself. I mistook one of the bolt holes, and I got it straightened out. I had it all put in, and I had to take it out. Not take it out, but I had to disconnect it, and then shift it and pry it and get it. But I have it now. So when you look at it from the back, a moment ago, this line, this vertical line, wasn't perpendicular to that. This was sloped that way because I had the bolt in the wrong hole. Let me show you where I was at. So I thought this bolt that bolts the bracket on the back of the fan, on the back of the evaporator, was supposed to be in this hole, but it's not. I had it there, and all of these lines were close. They were in the hole, and I had all this buttoned up, and then I went back and looked at the instructions, and I realized, no, it needs to be in here. So I took it out, shimmed it, pried it, got this bolt in. There's a bolt behind the battery, that one back there, so that one is in. It goes right behind the radio speaker. One thing I will say, I'm missing some parts. Going back to the instructions, it clearly shows 4 grommets. And you saw when I first took that bulkhead, I only had 2. There were only 2 on it, and I didn't take those other 2 off. So that's the kit was clearly missing those 2 grommets that go on the 2 heater hoses. And that's not the only thing it was missing. I had these plastic vents. I replaced those with the billet ones. I ordered those separately. But these 2 vents, one of these is missing the little ball turret on the inside of it. What else? The O-ring, I was missing an O-ring. I put that on me. I thought maybe I misplaced it. But these 2 grommets, that's on them. And this vent, that's on them. I hate to sit here and complain, but come on. Each one of these little sheets is signed off. It's check, 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 check on a checklist. And it's got somebody's initials who signed off on the box being packed right. Well, shoot, that's like 4 things I'm missing right now. Anyway, we'll figure it out. So now I need to measure my AC lines, the hoses and the hard line. So on the left are the 2 heater lines. That's for coolant. And then we got these two lines here. One line goes to the compressor and one line goes to the evaporator, these two connections. So one of them has the hard pipe, and that's the lower one. And the hard pipe goes from there and it routes along here and it comes to the dryer. I'll show you that in a second. But then there's hoses that you have two hoses. One that goes from this larger connection that goes to the evaporator underneath the dash. That's going to come here, connect to the compressor, and then it's going to come from the compressor and connect to the evaporator. So we've got to take these lines, and they're very stiff. So what I need to do is I need to put them in place and then figure out which direction I want to route them, and then I need to clock the fitting on there, and you'll see that in just a second. So there's a hard line that goes from the dryer back to the evaporator under the dash, and that's the lowermost line. It's got a pressure switch on it that needs to be connected, and that's where I said the wire needs to come in. The wiring needs to come to this, and then from this to the compressor. But this hard line follows a nice contour on the fender, and it comes back there and it has this dog leg, and it's supposed to couple to this line down here. Now this little bit of left and right is not what I'm worried about, but what I'm worried about is the length. I've got this line in here, and you can see that the end of the hose, or the end of this line and the end of this line, are not even close. That's where I need the flare part to be, so I need to get that cut by the hose people. Hopefully they'll be able to do that, and then once so hopefully I'll be able to salvage this line, but we're gonna see. So now let me show you my other problem. So the vintage air unit came with two fittings that are supposed to go onto the compressor, and I give you these to crimp onto the hoses. You can see these two service ports. Well, this is my adapter that goes onto the peanut compressor, and the number 10 and the number 8 O-ring fittings are, the number 10 is in the front, number 8 is in the back. Well, this number 8, the smaller one, needs to go to the condenser, which is in the front. So that needs to go here, and then the number 10 needs to go to the evaporator inside the car, so that needs to go backwards. But look, see these two service ports? They bang into each other. So even if I put these on here, this is throwing this one towards the motor, and if I swing it this way, it's got to go to the front. It's kind of throwing it all up in the belts, and if I go up high, I mean, then it's going to come up in here, and that's a mess. So then this one's got to go towards the back, and this one, if I put this one on the front, and here's a service port here. So if I do this one, now that one's going towards the motor. So these aren't going to work. I ordered two more fittings from that are made or sold by Vintage Air. I got them through Speedway Motor, but they're sold by Vintage Air. And these are now 90 degrees with the service ports on the backside. Now I bring those to the compressor, and the service ports bang into the fender. So those aren't going to work. So what I need to do is, when I go to the hose people, I need to hope that they're able to figure out some sort of way around this. Hopefully they got another fitting in stock or something. I'm not quite sure how that's going to work out, but I need to get two different fittings if I want to use this compressor. So wish me luck, but here we go. All right, here's where I'm at with my hoses. So the Vintage Air kit came with these 135 degree number 10 and number 8 fittings with the ports on the side, and the two ports bang into each other. So I can't put these on the compressor. So then I ordered from Vintage Air through Speedway Motors, I ordered some 90s with the port on the side, and I can't use these because the port bangs into the fender, or at least the gauges that you put on them would bang into the fender. So I've got two of those that don't work. So I went to this vendor called Hose Guys that when I did my 71 Cutlass, they crimped all of my hoses. And now I went to them, and he was like, he deals with hydraulics, and he says he's only got a couple of refrigeration lines, but he sent me to Tri-State Refrigeration, a Thermo King dealer. So I don't know if you know what Thermo King is, but Tri-State Refrigeration. I came here, and these guys, these are the ones that if anybody's familiar with trucking, reefers, not the smoky kind, but reefers. These are the refrigeration units that go on the top, on the front of 18-wheeler tractor trailers for refrigerated cargo. they're going to make me some custom fittings. So he's going to take 290s and he's going to put the ports on the right side, and he's going to take that dryer, that line that goes from the dryer to the bulkhead, he's going to take that and he's going to shorten that and modify that. So I left him with him today. Today's Friday. He's going to have them for me Monday. I won't be able to do it this weekend, but that's it. So I'm going to show it to you after we get them, and let's see what they look like. So see you on the flip side.
All right, here they are. Man, it looks factory. That just looks outstanding. Look at the job he did. It's beautiful. So that's the one side. Here's the other side. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount these two. I've got my two hoses. I've got them just roughed in, just run from the evaporator towards the bulkhead, and then from the condenser back towards this direction. And now I need to get these two fittings on here, and then take these hoses and mark the hoses to length, clock the fittings, and then bring the fittings back to the refrigeration place and have them crimp them, and then we can install them. So this is what I've come up with. I've got it run straight, and this line is going to go to here. I'm going to cut it. I'm going to have him cut it right here and crimp it. So that's going to route like that. And since this is a straight piece and this swivels, I don't need to worry about clocking this line, because these hoses are very stiff. You can't really twist them a whole heck of a lot, but the front one has an angle on it. So there's a 90-degree angle that comes off of here. And at first I debated. I thought I wanted to run that line. I want to run it directly, but then I thought, well, maybe I'll run it back here and then make a U-turn and come back to this fitting and twist it like this. But that's a little too tight of a bend. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crisscross these. I'm going to have this one coming up and over and that one going down and forward. And now I've got that one marked. I don't know if you can see my tape mark, but I've got my tape mark on it, and I've got a little indexing mark on the top of the fitting. So there's a little black line and then my tape with the black line. So when that gets cut and crimped, this is going to be a very short line. It's going to go here, and what I had to make sure of is I had to make sure that those lines were flexible enough that once all this is buttoned up and tight and the refrigeration the refrigerant is in it, that I'm able to take this compressor and move it with those lines so that I can take the belt on and off. So that's what I got to do. I got to go bring this to the refrigeration guy and have him make these lines, cut them and crimp them, and he'll be able to take the next step. Ta-da! So there it is. Cut the length, crimped, clocked, indexed like it's supposed to go. So now right now I just have it just lightly screwed in place. I don't have the O-rings in place. I don't have it all. I'm not ready to tighten this up just yet. I'm close, but not just yet. So I'm going to put this other one on now. Put this one in here. Let me get that one. I'll show you how that fits. And there's the second one. So now I got it just lightly screwed on. It clears the fender. It's nice. So it's not rubbing. Clears the fender here, and it clears it all the way through. So there's the two lines. Let's look at it from the other angle, how they fit. So it's, you know, nice and tidy, clean, not very imposing, very unimposing. So I'm satisfied with that. Now I need to get the heater hose, and the heater hose is going to go from the manifold. Got a fitting over here in the manifold, and then one on the water pump. So there's a water pump in the manifold that comes back to here. There'll be the valve that goes in line on one of those. I need to get that. So, but it's one step closer. So let's go ahead and start hooking up everything permanently. So on the back side of this aluminum block, there's two O-rings that seal, and these two O-rings go on the side of the compressor, and the compressor's got these little channels or troughs for them. All right, now I need to get my hoses and the hard line. It's all been modified now, and get those in. Need to get the O-rings ready. So I decided it was just simpler, just 3 bolts pull off the battery box. It was just in the way. I don't know why I was fighting around it. So I just pulled it out of my way so I can get these lines in, because I need to get wrenches, double wrenches over here, and screwdrivers and everything else. So I got the O-ring on the end of the tube on both sides. And one goes to the evaporator inside of the car. Need to make sure that the O-ring fits inside of the little tube. Nut started. Before I get it too tight, I need to come up to the dryer.
So the other side is up here by the dryer. And that's a little easier to deal with. And there you go. Get it started. Make sure it doesn't cross thread. Great. Okay. So now there's a binary switch goes on here. And then we've got the two hoses that connect. So let me see. Let me go ahead and get this tightened. Get the backside tightened, and then we'll move to the hoses. All right, the first line that goes from the front has got a 90-degree bend in it. Goes there. Make sure I've got the O-ring on it. O-ring is lubed. It inserted into the little trough. I've seen pictures on the internet of people having trouble with these O-rings, and they're like, "Oh, what's wrong?" And you got to get the O-ring to where it goes into the little place where it's supposed to insert. And if you don't insert it, if it doesn't go in like that, then you're gonna cross it up. So I think that's the biggest thing, is just making sure you get the right size O-ring. There you go. Okay, that's one. Now I need to get the other one that goes towards the back. So now let's get the back line in. This line goes from the front of the compressor. Got the O-ring on it. O-ring is lubricated. Mineral oil that they give you with the kit. There you go. And this needs to come up and over to this. Might have done it a little bit long. We'll let it go. Better too long than too short. All right, the next thing's going to be the heater hoses, which I need to figure out which is the in and the out on the diagram, and then I think it's the bottom one. The bottom one gets the controller valve, and I need to figure out whether the bottom one goes to the water pump or the bottom goes to the manifold. But I'll get that routing sorted out, and I've got some brand new 5/8 inch heater hose to put in. So here's what the instructions say about this heater control valve. It goes on the top, but then they're also particular about the direction as well as the orientation. They want this to be vertical with this bottom grill face looking upward. So the two hose connections are basically towards the top, and then all the business end of it just extends downward. So we just need to make sure we orient it in that direction. So the flat side of the control valve goes towards the interior of the car, and the round side comes from the outside, and that comes from the manifold. So I've just taken a rough length of hose and just slipped it over the bottom one, because I need to see where I want to put this controller. You know, the hose is here, so the hose is going to have to either come up and around or do something. And that is a mess. I don't like that at all. Like, where's this controller going to go? We've got plenty of room, but I mean, the line points to the fender, and then it's got to cross now the bottom heater hose and then the top AC hose. So I think it probably needs to coil up over. I don't know, maybe I can get it to go under. That would probably be better. If I can get it to go under and then figure out where to put it, maybe I'll be able to put it, I don't know, somewhere over here. I don't like it. I mean, it's not very pretty. I don't know if there's any place that makes sense, but let me look into it and figure it out. So after a little bit of contemplation, this is the line that's going to come from the manifold, and there's the line that's coming from the heater, and I'm going to route both of them in this direction, and they're kind of just loosely run right now. I mean, like, this is, I want to keep that clear of the belt, of course, but they'll both come up here alongside of one another, and this is what I decided to do. So I've got a nice vacant space over here, and I'm going to put that little controller over here in this pocket because nothing else goes there. So I'll put it right here. Now, what I really needed to do is just get this heater hose to turn 90, and I went to Napa and bought this. So I'll cut this to length, and that will go right here, and we'll turn 90 and get that out. And then you can see the hose that I've got. I already checked it to make sure that it will take this bend, but then I'll just have a gentle sweeping bend off into the corner, right up in there. So need to figure out these lengths, get that cut, and I'll be able to put that heater controller right there. That'll be nice. And there it is. I like it. I like it. It is out of the way. So now I've got that side done. I've got all the hose clamps on. It's nice and it's level. Now it might bounce around a little bit. So what I might do is it looks like there's a boss in the back of it for a bracket. I might be able to make a bracket to secure this to the cowl, to the firewall. So I'll look into maybe doing that at some point. So now I need to get these two lines routed and cut to length, routed, and then fastened to the manifold into the water pump. Well, there they are. So top one, bottom one, manifold, water pump. It's routed, it's tucked. It's tucked here. It goes underneath the compressor, and it just kind of runs up the fender right there. And you can see how that just kind of makes a little loop-de-loop in the well, and then comes back up to the heater controller. That all looks good. Okay, so like I said, the heater valve has like a boss on the side of it. It's got like 4 little screw holes that you can screw in sheet metal screws and hold it on a bracket. And I thought I might make a bracket, and I came up with something that I'm really proud of. I like this. So I'm the kind of guy that never throws anything away. You can tell by looking around me in this garage. I just don't throw anything away. You never know when something's going to become useful. So I installed an attic ladder in my house to replace an old wooden one with the spring, and it was all bent up. And so I got one of these new modern ones that has the aluminum steps and the hydraulic little pull down thing. So when I cut the length, I saved the aluminum. You never know. You never know. So check this out. So this is the piece of aluminum that came off the stair tread. What I did was, out of this end of it, I fashioned a bracket. So I cut out with my cutoff wheel and my grinder and made a little bracket, and that's the little side that's gonna that the valve is gonna screw to, and I got 2 holes I need to go ahead and screw into the firewall flange. But watch how this is gonna go. It's gonna go right there on that. So I'm gonna screw those 2 screws into that, and then screw this into the heater valve like that, and that's going to live right there. Even though this was like stable enough, it was wobbling around, but not too badly. But I noticed that this hose would tap, and I could just hear, if I'm driving down the highway, you know, I'm going to hear this kind of stuff, and I'm not going to like it. So I made this bracket, and there it is. All right, we're going to leave that go, and then we're going to move on. So I pulled out one of the defrost ducts, and this was in like this, and it was pointed that way, and I think I'm going to spin it around and point it this way. It's off-centered, but it screws in. The one screw on this side goes into either side of where the original duct was screwed in. So the plenum on the unit, this is the defrost side, here and here, these 2 on the front, and then these are for the regular vent. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'll probably put this one facing this way, so that way it can circle back and come and attach to the plenum right there. And then the other one is already gonna be coming this way, and it'll be able to come there. So that way the ducting behind there will be efficient. So this, I don't know what diameter this is, if this is 2.5 inch, 2-inch ducting, whatever this is, but it's a smaller ducting for the defrost. And I'm gonna use electrical tie wraps to hold them. So I'm going to go ahead and route the 1, 2, and then for the defrost. And then these other 2, I'm going to go to my vents. But I'm not going to use the center vent just yet, I don't think, because I have my gauge cluster goes here. And so if I decide to hook up that center vent that goes underneath here, I think I'll be doing something a little bit different. So I'm just going to probably just dead end those. I'm going to use the 2 top ones for now, and then leave the 2 bottom ones for the future. Let me go ahead and get that all hooked up. Let me show you my progress. So you can see that four port plenum. Well, I've taken the back one, and you can see I've routed it. You can follow it back over in that direction. Here it is. So it comes here, it's behind the windshield wiper. I'm gonna probably have to do something to tug that and hold that back. But that's gonna come through here to that's to this vent. So I'll be able to cut this and put that vent on. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the other top one and I'm gonna route it in that direction to that vent over there. And then right now I've got, this is a defrost, the driver's side defrost duct. There you can see it, barely, but there's a driver's side defrost duct, and that's gonna come to this port right here. All right, so here's that chrome bezel vent, and you can see I've got a tie wrap on the black plastic piece, and then I've got the bezel threaded into it. So now this ought to just slide in. It ought to slide in here, and then I'll be able to screw it together, but it's all pretty tight, so I'm gonna take 2 hands to do that. But anyway, I gotta put that in. There it is, pretty. Finished. You see the duct. So I just need to make sure I get something that holds that back. But now I need to get the other defroster on the other side. Well, the ducts are all in. Here's the one for the passenger side. There's a defroster duct for the passenger side. And defroster duct for the driver's side. And then the 2 vents, or the vent that goes to the driver's side. So that's in, and it's all tucked way the heck back there. It is way up in there. So I did a short circuit. I did a shunt. So I just looped the 2 together down on the bottom just to close that off. I don't know if I'm going to continue to do that, or I might pull that off and make a little closure plate of some sort, but I don't know. But that's going to do it for the duct work. So next thing is going to be the wiring, and then and I forgot about the condensate drain. So that I think that's about it. And then I need to reassemble all the rest of my trim, but it's almost done. Stick with me. So let's start looking at the wiring. Here's the wiring harness. I've already taken it apart on the counter and I labeled everything, right? So it's got inputs and outputs. So there's 2 inputs, power and the ground here, and then there's another power switch over here. This is supposed to be wired directly to the battery. This is a 30 amp fuse block. Now, if I was putting vintage air into an original 56 Bel Air that had its original wiring harness, I can understand the need for having this, but I have a brand new American Auto wire harness that is robust and it's built for this kind of stuff. So I'm going to eliminate this. What they give you is two white wires that they want run to ground, and then they give you this red power wire that needs to be on full-time battery power without being switched. The purple wire is supposed to go to the ignition switch, or at least switch power. 12 volts only on when the ignition switch is on. So there is already a wire for the heater AC that is on switch power, and that's what I'm going to use for this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use an accessory circuit to pick this up and to power this, and I'm going to show you that. So here's the vintage air wiring diagram, and they show you how everything is, and you can see how this red, the block and the red, they want it going directly to the battery. And then the 2 whites, I have no idea why there's 2, because they both come to the same thing. And it says no, connect white wires directly to battery terminal. I mean, come on, everything on the car is already like, you know, there's plenty of things that need ground. Why is this thing so special that it needs a special ground to go directly to the battery? No, you're going to get a ground like everybody else gets a ground. So let's go to the American Auto wire wiring diagram. So this is the fuse panel, and you can see that where these blocks of fuses are, and I want you to pay attention to where the AC heat is over on this bank, and then the power windows are up here. So if I go to the wiring diagram, you can see, all right, here's the bank that had the heater, AC heat is on this bank, and here's the bank that has that. And you can see that this is on a circuit that the wire, it's fed here, this brown wire, if I follow it, if I trace it, it traces all the way back to accessory power. So the AC and heat fuse, that circuit is only on when the switch is on. But look at the power windows. So the power windows are up here,
and they are on this circuit. Notice they're over here. Here's the red. There's a red feeding this bank, this red wire. And this red wire, if you trace it, it traces back to the, turn over. It traces back to the mega fuse, which basically says it's directly to the battery and alternator. So this is a 12 volt constantly hot, this power window circuit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to route the one wire that requires all the time power to that power window circuit. So I need to pull the accessory block and route a wire to that. And then the wire that, or the circuit that only requires power when the switch is on, I will wire to that accessory feed, which is the AC heater wire. So I'm going to use the AC heater wire plus an accessory wire, and their functions are going to do two things. One's going to keep it hot all the time, keep a part of the circuit hot all the time, and the other one's going to only be on when you turn the key on. So that's what I got to do. I have to get underneath the dash and fish out those things and get that done. So I just cut away the red from here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, there's an orange wire that I have that's already labeled AC heat that came in the kit, in the American Auto Wire kit. So I'm going to splice these two with that orange wire, and that orange wire is where I'm going to end up crimping to go to my accessory plug. All right, so if you remember that part of the wiring harness, I cut it off, and I spliced those two red wires that were going to this fuse block, and now these are going through an orange wire that happened to have extra. It was left over, or it was in the in the American Auto Wire kit, and you can see it says heat and air. So this is going to go, even though this wire says heat and air, which is accurate, this end's going to go to the fuse block that's the accessories that's right back here. And then the other wire will be fed by the actual dedicated circuit for heat and air. As we get started, one of the business ends of the wiring harness has these two plugs. So one of the plugs, you can see it, there's a dongle down over there that this plug needs to go to. The other one goes to the controller, which I still have dangling, and there's an open block that this smaller one goes to. So that controller box needs to get attached up there, but I don't want to attach it until I get the wires connected, and then I'll fasten it. So that's where these two ends go. Then there is also a separate wire that they give you, a wiring harness that has a little connector on the end of it, and this goes to the heater valve, and the other end of it is like this. And there's also within the wiring harness, within all of this, there's a plug for it. So I've got to get the business end of that attached over there, and then I've got to get the heater valve connected, and there's a ground wire on that, so you plug it into one end onto the valve, one end into that block, and then the third wire, the last wire goes to ground. So I need to do that, and that'll get us started. So I pushed the wiring harness through that one hole before I put the grommet back on, and I connected it to the heater valve, and even though this is white, it's ground, so I'm going to run that up to behind my battery, which is that's where I have the ground strap. So the ground strap goes right to that. So that'll be grounding on the heater valve. All right, so I pulled all of the terminal ends. So this is coming off the unit. This is coming off of that heater valve. So these two plugs need to be plugged in. Here now I have my wiring harness, and here's one end coming from the wire harness, and here's another end coming from the wire harness. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2. Get plugged into 1, 2, 1, 2. So we're going to plug that in. There's a relay here that'll live somewhere just back here, and this control panel has got some Velcro, and I believe it Velcros like right behind here, right next to the radio and between the radio and the speaker. And those are plugged in just like that. So they're going to live back here behind the speaker some sort of way. I might put them up because I don't want them to get in the windshield wiper, transmission, and all these bars. So now I'm ready to insert the controller, and I had to take the bottom switch off to get it in. But you'll notice how this has got a lot of back of house business back here. Well, guess what that did? The windshield wiper system that I'd put in almost a year ago was all in the way. So I had to take it out, throw it out.
I'll put a rain gear system in. That's going to be the next episode. It's already in. So, but we're going to continue the wiring, but that's something that just in between here and there, there's a big gap. But anyway, we had worked around it, and then c'est la vie. That's life. So let me go ahead and I'll slip this controller in, put that switch back on, and then I'll show you how that plugs in. So getting this controller in, I want to point something out. There's 2 screws in the bottom, but then at the top there's 2 blind set screws. So behind this unit is going to be 2 Phillips screws that jam against the back side of the dash right here. So you have to loosen these up, slide this up and over, and then get a screwdriver in there and tighten these up and pinch this on the dash. All right, that's in. 2 screws in the bottom, the 2 set screws tight. Switches all actuate without anything in the way. So you can see them in the back there. Now I've got the wiring harness coming forward, so I need to start connecting some of this stuff. So I've taken up my excess slack and just put an electrical tie wrap on it, and that'll go above the glove compartment, and it'll plug into this. But here's the ECM, the electronic control module, and there's a 1 6-pin connection back here you don't use, but then on the forward side of the box, there's 2 connectors there. So you have one coming from the controller, and then you have another one coming from the system, from the evaporator. So those 2 plug into that box right there. And I'm going to plug those 2 in and hide this right behind here. So now the controller's hidden back there. It's behind the dash, and everything's plugged in. All right, everything's hooked up in the cab. So there's the heater wire to the purple, and then I've got the other one that's on the power window circuit. I've got it routed to this block. I need to plug that back into my fuse panel. That's the accessory harness clip. And the last thing we got to do now is take the wire feed that comes out of here for the compressor, feed it underneath the hood, and then connect it to the binary switch and then to the compressor, and then it'll be done. So I've routed the blue wire. It's coming out here. And what I did is I got underneath these electrical tie wraps. So it's routing with the heater hoses, and it's going to come around here, and now I'm going to break it off, and it'll come this way. And here's the binary switch. So we need to make sure the binary switch is tight, because that's it's I think it's a Schrader valve, but we need to just make sure that that switch is tight and engaged so it doesn't leak. But there's two ends on this one, and then the compressor has its positive lead. So these 2 go to this binary switch, and that'll be that. That's all of it. We got it. There's the binary switch tightened up. Got the 2 leads going to it. It's basically a switch, so it doesn't matter which side goes to which. But there it is. Compressor's on. Condenser. Hard lines. The dryer. Binary switch. We had to modify this line, shorten it. All these hoses had to be custom cut to length. I had to have these 290s made with the service ports. Did a nice job hiding that heater valve. Made a nice little bracket. That looks like that's going to look really good. Once the hinge is on there, you'll never see any of that. And then, of course, everything inside the cab underneath the hood. But that's going to do it. I don't know if you can tell from looking at this video, but you'll notice that you'll see different shirts in the video. That's because this has been taking place over maybe 6 weeks. It might even be longer than that. I don't know how long, when I started it. If I started this project, started this vintage air install about 2 months ago, but I got interrupted by the holidays and then all kinds of customization. I had a problem with the windshield, conflict with the windshield wiper system. Had to order a different system, install that, and so there's been a lot of delay, a lot of custom-made parts, but we got through it. You know, I did it by myself, and I've still got some things to put in. Just buttoning up the interior trim, you know, the speedometer and all that other stuff. But I've got other things that I'm working on, so but that's the end of episode 2. So hope you got something out of it. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. And as always, if you're enjoying the channel, I'd love a subscription. So until I see you next time, please take care of yourself. Cheers.